Everything you're about to hear is just my assessment. It's my opinion and not to be taken as fact. The role of Tom Callender, as revealed in this interview, is a glaring representation of betrayal, cowardice, and moral compromise. His initial commitment to Jonathan and Susie Lamb, pledging to uphold biblical values and the succession plans at Daystar, was nothing short of a facade, ultimately unraveled by his actions. His abrupt and unexplainable reversal, following what appears to have been external pressure from Joni Lamb, is a damning indictment of his character and integrity. Callender's flip-flopping reveals not only a lack of conviction, but a willingness to abandon the very principles he claimed to uphold for decades. When he initially affirmed the Lamb's biblical stance and pledged to protect their rightful role within the ministry, he positioned himself as an ally committed to truth and justice. However, his overnight betrayal, coinciding suspiciously with a conversation with Joni, highlights either his susceptibility to manipulation or a selfish alignment with power and influence. Neither explanation reflects positively on him. By succumbing to Joni's influence, Callender proved himself to be a man of wavering faith and no backbone, a stark contrast to the steadfast integrity of Jonathan and Susie Lamb. His failure to stand firm on biblical principles, after boldly affirming them, is a betrayal not just of the Lambs, but of the values that Daystar supposedly represents. His insistence that Jonathan and Susie should accept the marriage or leave the ministry entirely underscores his willingness to enable moral compromise to preserve institutional harmony or personal convenience. The interview also exposed Callender's troubling pattern of prioritizing Daystar's corporate interests over the truth. His repeated insistence on Daystar as a billion-dollar entity during meetings speaks volumes about where his loyalties truly lie. Rather than centering his decisions on spiritual truths or biblical teachings, he appears fixated on preserving Daystar's financial empire, a stark contradiction to the ministry's foundational mission of serving God and his people. Even more egregious is Callender's abdication of responsibility in addressing allegations of abuse and wrongdoing within the ministry. His passive stance and ultimate alignment with Joni Lamb suggest a deliberate choice to prioritize institutional protection over the safety and justice owed to the Lambs and their child. His behavior perpetuates the toxic culture of silence and complicity that enables abuse and corruption to thrive within religious institutions. As a board member, Callender had not only a moral obligation, but also a legal and spiritual duty to act in the best interests of the vulnerable. His failure to do so is a glaring stain on his legacy. Callender's actions also exemplify the broader problem of spiritual and moral compromise within leadership. By siding with those perpetuating injustice, he has positioned himself as an enabler of the very corruption that Jonathan and Susie have so courageously fought against. His refusal to take a firm stand for truth and justice, despite knowing the details of the situation, makes him complicit in the harm inflicted upon the Lamb family and their ministry. The interview revealed a heartbreaking level of fear and intimidation surrounding Callender's actions. His reported claim of being scared for his life and his subsequent submission to Joni's will suggest that he allowed fear to dictate his decisions rather than relying on God for courage and strength. Scripture is clear that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. Callender's failure to embody this truth is a reminder of the destructive power of fear when it overrides faith and conviction. Tom Callender's betrayal serves as a cautionary tale for anyone entrusted with leadership in the Christian community. His lack of courage, integrity, and commitment to biblical principles starkly contrasts with the Lamb's unwavering faith and resolve. Where Jonathan and Susie stood firm despite immense pressure, Callender crumbled, exposing himself as a man willing to forsake truth for personal or institutional preservation. In conclusion, Tom Callender's role in this tragic saga is a sobering example of the dangers of moral compromise and the prioritization of self-interest over spiritual conviction. His actions, or lack thereof, have caused untold harm to the Lamb family, tarnished the reputation of Daystar, and undermined the trust of countless believers. While God's justice will ultimately prevail, Callender's legacy will undoubtedly be remembered as one of failure, betrayal, and cowardice. Let his story serve as a reminder that true Christian leadership requires unwavering faith, integrity, and a commitment to stand for truth, no matter the cost. This vision calls for a return to the core values of the gospel: humility, service, and an unyielding commitment to truth and justice. It is a reminder that, despite the challenges and failures of human institutions, God's kingdom remains unshaken, and his purposes will ultimately prevail. The Lamb's story is a clarion call for believers to embrace their prophetic role within the church and society. It challenges Christians to confront sin, resist corruption, and advocate for the vulnerable, even when it is costly. Their courage and faith serve as an example for all who seek to follow Christ authentically. In conclusion, this interview is both a rallying cry and a powerful affirmation, a call for Christians to reevaluate their priorities, confront the darkness within their institutions, and recommit to living out their faith with authenticity and courage. Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson, Jonathan, and Susie Lamb exemplify resilience and steadfastness in the face of adversity, setting a high standard for what it means to live out the gospel. Their unwavering faith reminds us that God's justice, though sometimes delayed, is inevitable, and the path of righteousness, though narrow and difficult, leads to life and lasting impact. May their courage inspire others to rise up, speak out, and stand firm in their faith, no matter the cost.